Welcome to the Everyday Board Game Podcast with your hosts, Daniel.
And Daniel.
Hey, Daniel, it's been a while since I've seen you.
I know, it's been about a week.
Listeners of the live, anybody who's joining us live, and this is why you need to join us live, by the way. I'm going to make a shameless plug right off the
Hey, here's the thing, it's going to be quite hilarious because you're going to mention something that we recorded already.
Yes.
But it's going to air after this episode.
Yes, that's correct. So we had a special guest on. When we do that, we try to still put them uploaded to
in the normal cycle.
The normal cycle, yeah. And that will come out in a couple of weeks after this episode airs on the re-recordings.
So if you're listening to this on the podcast side or over the re-upload on YouTube, next week's episode is what we're talking about, but we recorded it before this episode.
That's correct. So... Also, again, if this is making no sense to you, or if this is a slightly confusing, join us live. Then you don't have to worry about this, and we explain it right.
Hey,
right
I changed my hat.
Yeah, I mean, we have the same clothes. You know, it is what it is. You know, my hair is nice and clean. I don't know what you're talking about. Not showered yet. I did shower this morning.
My nose says otherwise.
Anyway, let's get into today's episode. Today's episode is a very silly one. We are going to be doing a Chits and Giggles episode today,
which is an interesting one because we've been known to do these kind of episodes where we're doing the best and worst of something.
Yes, and this is like one of our favorites. We need to update the title on our live episode, but we'll do that here soon. But yeah, our best and worst episodes, they tend to be popular, and we realized one that I swear that we had done already, we haven't, and this is the best and worst art in our games. So we want to say this first and foremost, right at the beginning of the episode. Very clearly, we love these games. The games that we're going to be talking about are in our collection. They're in our collection for a reason. I want this to be very clear. This has nothing against the designers or the publishers or even the artists. It's just the culmination of how it ended up looking and being on the printed pieces, whether that's cards or the board or whatever, ended up having us be a bit questionable at times, or if not most of it. Now, with that being said, again, this episode is in jest, okay? So don't be sending hate mail to us specifically because you're like, you don't know art or whatever.
It's
Art's
subjective.
We know that. But these, if we are ever debating these in our top 8 debate, know that we are going to either sing its praises or knock it down furiously because of some of the things that we're going to be talking about.
Yeah.
Now, we picked 4 games each for each of those. So I have 4 of my worst art, 4 of my best art. Mm-hmm. And there's actually, so many games I could have put in here, but these are just games that specifically sing to me.
You know, what's interesting about this when we did it? It was easier for me to pick pretty games because I've really culled my collection to have really gorgeous games in here. Yeah. It was very hard for me to pick ugly games.
So it was the opposite for me.
Oh, I know. I've seen your games. I played your games.
And I knew you were going to say that, but it wasn't just it was hard for me to pick either of them because a lot of mine are very when I play games, I don't necessarily look at the art all that much. And this is a spoiler. It's I don't have Dominion on my list, even though that's comically known to have some of the worst art. I think collectively it's not all that bad, and I don't even look at the art anyway when I'm playing it. I'm playing the icons mm-hmm. or the text that's on the card and whatever the title is. I don't normally look at what the art is and go, oh, well, that's clearly a cartographer.
I just want to clarify, on my list, it's games that are in my current collection, not something I've previously owned or anything like that. So you're saying Federicus is not on your list?
Federicus is not on my list.
Because that was an ugly game.
That was a very ugly game. Although, the art, was kind of the over-top comical, almost like Mad Magazine ridiculous.
It was not Mad Magazine.
No,
don't be dragging down Mad Magazine.
Now, the cover was incredibly bad.
No, the art on the cards, don't be
and the
dragging
art on the board was really bad.
Don't be dragging Mad Magazine into
But the cards were kind of the justification. No, on all of these ones that I'm going to be
talking about...
Go look
up Federicus. You guys are going to see what we're talking about.
All of these that I'm going to be talking about today, there is not a component in the game that I would have described as okay. All of the art on cover, cards, components, board, all of it is just yikes. And
there's
a reason I did that.
There's There's a few on here that I'm talking about on the graphic design in a sense, but more so how the art ties into the graphic design.
Exactly. And then as far on the opposite end, like the beautiful games, I did ones that were just like, I would gladly put it on the shelf, or I would even open up the board or put the cards and hang those up just to be like, wow, look at this.
Or like if you could find like an uncut sheet of the cards in this game, and be able to just hang it up in wall art, or my calendar behind me over here, it's art. You can actually buy prints of it, so that kind of thing.
And I do want to clarify one more thing for myself, and I don't know if you did this, but one more thing that I did for me specifically is I didn't include games. I considered this like the art had to be the sum of all of it. And even though like I think there are some art, and like say Magic the Gathering, I was a longtime player of that. There are some cards that are just stunning.
Oh yeah,
like gorgeous to look at. But I didn't put games like that on it because again, it's the sum of all the parts. And
it's
unless everything is gorgeous, I didn't count it.
Yeah, I did that in a sense. I'm looking at my everything on my my best art is stuff that is just make that table present aspect where it's going to draw people in if they see something that pretty. Yeah.
Cool. All right, you ready to get into today's episode?
Yeah, sure.
All right, but before we do, what have you been playing, Daniel?
Oh, I've been playing a lot. We had a great game night last week. I'm going to be talking about three of my 4 games we played last week on our mutual game night. Luckily enough, it was my pick. And luckily enough, you didn't want to go home, so you wanted to stay late and play some more games. So we ended up getting...
No, it's not that I didn't want to go home. I just wanted to play a lot of games.
Yeah.
And we played a lot of games.
You weren't able to play a lot of games during the week. You've just been really busy. And so you're like, the wife gave me okay. I don't have work in the next morning because you're a teacher, so you're off for the summer. Yep. You're like, can I stay late and play games? I went and asked my wife. She's like, go ahead. Go have fun. And so after our group left... we ended up playing like 3 more games. Yeah. So we ended up playing 8 games in total last week.
Between you and I.
It was fantastic. It was such a good game night. In fact, we played 5 games with Damn It Dom. Mm-hmm. You and me played 8 games together, and then we played, I think it was 4 games with Gamehead Geek, to the point because we wanted to show him some games. Mm-hmm. So I'm not talking about like the ones I've already talked about, like Mind Up and Gnar, which were fantastic games. Yep. I liked them, and part of me wanted to talk to him about those. We will eventually. But the first game I want to talk about, I made reference, and you'll hear it a little bit talking about it in the next podcast, is a game that I finally got to the table. It's been sitting on my floor of shame over here for a while. Mm-hmm. And I specifically was waiting to play this one because I wanted to play it with Gamehead Geek because he wanted to play it. This was Last Light, a Roy Canada's 4X game. When we're talking about art in game, the art's okay in this game. But if we were doing our art production in a top 8 debate, this game hands down would probably win because of that production value alone. Yeah, those resin planets are fantastic. If you have the Kickstarter stuff with the asteroids that are just on the board instead of all the tokens and stuff like that, though the tokens are fine, they're in there. I had them, but just the planets alone is fantastic. But the game itself, other than the fact that it's well produced, is actually a fun game. Yeah. And the fact that they were able to draw a 4X game, and it took us an hour once I read the rules and taught the game itself. When we started playing, I put the timer on. It took us an hour and 4 minutes to play the game. I literally, after the rule teach, I put the timer on, and we played the game in an hour and 4 minutes. That is exceptional for a 4X game. When you play a game like TI4, in a 6-hour game is a quick game of TI4. Right. This is a fantastic game. I like it that it was one of the more simple 4X games, the Gronk. It's just basically simultaneous card action.
Do what you gotta do,
Yeah, you're just like, okay, and it tells you straightforward, you're doing this action, then you're doing this action. If you can't pay for this one, you can still do this action if you have that aspect of it as well. And that it's very simple. And the only time you go in turn order rather than simultaneous play, if there's going to be battles. Yeah. That is it. I liked everything about it. I love working on the tech tree. now you and me had a discussion about this, and we'll probably get into it in a little bit. You don't think it's possible to win in the tech tree. I think it is possible. You just have to play perfect to win in the tech tree. It is a 4X game, so it is really about getting to the center and getting as much light, because it's the first person to 20 light wins the game.
Sure.
You're playing 6 cards in your hand, and I like it. It has the action retrieval aspect of it. It's like you have to play a card to get your cards back into your hand, because once it's played down. Now, you have special abilities that could allow you, like in tech, will allow you to get your cards back faster. So I like everything about it. I like the text that it does. I like the alien powers. They don't seem like too overpowered. No. And then there was a bunch in there, so you choose 2 at the start of the game and you pick the one that you want to play with. You only get 2, so it's going to take a while to see everything and how they work together. But from that first play, I really did enjoy it. I wouldn't mind. This is a 4X game. I can get to the table again at another game night because it plays so fast.
Yeah, I'd be willing to play it again. Yeah, it was pretty good. The first game I wanted to talk about was a game that you just quickly referenced earlier at the top of this episode.
Oh, really? You're going to talk about this one?
I'm going to talk about In the Footsteps of Darwin.
Oh, okay.
Yes, yeah, that one specifically. No, so me and my son, we played all the Spiel winners back to back, or nominees for this year, and one of them was In the Footsteps of Darwin. This is the one that I knew only one of the 3 games. I had not heard much about this one or Captain Flip.
This is the one you're talking about is the one I only really paid attention to,
right,
other than Sky Team, because you and Damn It Dom talked about Sky Team. This is the one I've actually researched.
Yeah, and see, I hadn't before that. When it got nominated, I was like, okay, I haven't really heard about it, but it was available where I was at the time, so I was like, okay, let me go buy it, so that way I can guarantee I own it. So that worked out well, and I played it, and this was the first time I played it. And a lot of the things that it does, it's surprising how interesting choices you have, how you can manipulate things with only 12 turns. It's incredibly fast. It is an incredibly, incredibly fast game. On your turn, pick one of the 3 tiles. If you pick the first one, you're going to move the ship 1. If you pick the second, move it 2. Third one, move it 3. Add it to your board. It tells you what continent, which is what row, and what animal type, which is what, which column, which is the continent, and row is the animal type.
Yeah.
Place it where it belongs on your board. If you cover up a tile, you get an extra endgame objective. If you fill in a row, you get 5 points. If you put down an icon that has points, it'll be at the end of the game if you still have it. If it has a compass or a token, you take the token. That's the game. And I'm underplaying it because it sounds incredibly simple, and it is, but there's some really fun little nuances about it. Like, for example, every player has 12 tiles, pretty much in front of them, right? That's the number of tiles that are in the game.
It's got fantastic art, too.
Beautiful art. Because which we'll be talking about later.
Yeah.
The art on that is fantastic. One of the things is that you can spend one of your assistant tokens or whatever, and you just wipe the 3 tiles, put them on the bottom of a stack. That just means they're coming up later.
Yeah.
But then you take the top of any one of the stacks to refill it. And whenever you refill the board, you always refill from whichever stack you want. And so that's like a cool little choice that's not immediately obvious. Like, well, why? It's all random anyway, right?
Yeah.
Not if somebody's thrown some tokens on the bottom of that stack already. If you knew that and you were going for that, you might be delving at that stack alone. So that's
cool.
They didn't have to do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the components are beautiful. The game works really simply. I don't think it's going to win. I would be surprised if it did.
It's my dark horse fit.
Yeah, I think it's unlikely if it'll win it, but I definitely enjoyed my play of it, and I'm going to keep it in my collection.
I'm trying to think. When is the Spiel supposed to be announced?
It's like mid-July, I think the 11th.
This will air right before they announce the winners, because this is supposed to air on July 8th. We're recording a little ahead because you're about to take a trip.
That's right.
And we need to record ahead because at the end of July, I'm going to be out of town.
That's right.
So, summer vacations.
Yeah, right?
All right, so the next game I want to... the reason why I wanted to reference this, that's why I was looking it up. The reason why I was looking at this game is because of the publishing company.
Yeah, sorry, we are French.
Yeah.
And that was my favorite part, as they were talking in German, on the announcement video. I was watching it and trying to figure it, and I just love how, they said that part in English, talking about being French, but after speaking German. So, like, I'm not going to be able to say real German, but they're like, "Da finde ich wieder, sorry, we are French." And I was like, what? What just happened?
Well, it's
that was hilarious.
I think that group is tied with like a lot of the French designers, including Bruno Cathala. That's why I was like intrigued about this, because I remember the announcement for it, and I'm looking forward to the sequel.
Yeah, in the footsteps of
Madame Curie.
Madame Curie, right?
Yeah, so that's a good pick. I do want to get this played. It's your pick this week.
I'm actually honestly thinking about it. Like, I want to play it again. I want to show you guys Captain Flip. That one's dope.
Well, like I said, it's your pick this week.
Yep.
So the next game I'm going to talk about is the one game on this list that I did not play as a group, because it's a solo game.
Oh.
And this is, if you notice, there's a big hole over here behind your head.
I noticed that.
It's because I have a lot of my solo games in the front, and that's where Final Girl was sitting. I did play that as well, but it's not what I'm going to talk about, because I did try a new one that you've recommended, because you've recommended more games in the Oniverse. I own Onirum, and I played that one a lot. In fact, I also played this on that same day I played the one I'm about to talk about, and this is Sylveon. And so I liked it. I still think Onirum is by far the better game compared to these two.
Sure.
But I liked what Sylveon did, and I have to say, Sylveon is by far one of the hardest freaking games I own.
I remember that. And so, I'll be honest, this is the one I remember almost the least out of all the Oniverse games. Maybe Castellion, I don't remember quite. Well, no, even then I kind of remember that. But I remember this one being, like, after playing it, I'm like, huh? What? Why did I lose so bad? Huh?
So, I only played the introductory game 3 times. I only won once, and when I won, I'm like, I'm good. I'm done. I'm going to go play Onirum now.
Yeah.
And I've lost both those games that I played that night of Onirum. I played one on physical copy here, because I was waiting on my wife, because we were getting ready to go out.
Yeah.
And I played Onirum on the app, because the reason we were going out, I was taking her to go to her barber, and I had to run errands. And then while she was still getting her haircut, I was waiting, so I just pulled out Onirum on the app. But back to Sylveon. It's a tower defense game. You're basically a forest spirits trying to protect the forest from fire spirits who are trying to burn down your forest. And at the end of the game, if you have more, I think it's like more of the trees still not burnt than compared to the trees being burnt, you win the game.
Yes, that's right.
Because you have a big giant grid and you have a deck of cards, but you're using cards as your resource, which I like. I want to put this really good firefighting card out. I have to get rid of 3 cards out of my hand.
Yes.
I love the one card that I could not stand. Annoyed me, and I used it mainly for spinning, was the whale card. Because it's the one that allows you to move the fires. I'm like, this is useless. If I just put it in line here, they're going to end up moving into the fire. So the whale was basically my currency. Every time I got a whale card, I left it in my hand just to pay for other cards. My favorite was the hedgehog, because it could literally get one of those really bad cards that flip up that enhance, like a 0 becomes a 4 fire. I'm like, no, get that out of here. It's the only time you can play out of your turn. Is like, I'm going to play this and I'm going to spin this. Get that card out of here, because I don't need more 4 fires up there. I got my nice defense line over here.
Yep.
I didn't even mind the one that moved them further along the track. That I always save my hedgehogs for the ones that increases the fire. I'm like, no, get that sucker out of here, because I don't want to deal with that.
Yep.
So I learned that, and I haven't even played it like in the full game. I only played the introductory level where you have like half the deck taken out. Oh, I liked it. It was good. It was so difficult, and I like tower defense games. Like Castle Panic is a fantastic tower defense game. Sylveon is by far one of the... I play Final Girl, and this was more difficult, and there is much more random in Final Girl with the dice rolls. But it's still easier than it is Sylveon. This was ridiculous. I like it, but Jesus.
Yeah, this was a very hard one for me too. Next one I want to talk about, I already brought it up, so I might as well get into it now. Captain Flip. I also played this. Captain Flip is just one of the silliest little games I've played in a while. This is just pure silly fun. Is it as good as the other two? Probably not. It's definitely not my favorite out of the 3. But out of all of these, like, I felt In the Footsteps of Darwin was nice and calm. I felt Sky Team was a great, like, co-op experience, but I don't think it's a family game per se. But what Captain Flip offers is 4 different boards that everyone gets, one of them, each with their own little objectives. They have 5 columns. And on your turn, reach into the bag, pull out a tile, look at one side of it, the side that you pull out. Right then and only then, you have the choice to flip it face down. If you flip it, there's no back flips, right? You can't go back to flipping it back there. So if you like the character you have, you just put it in one of the rows at the bottom open spot available, and then you play it. Now, here's the thing though. If you decide to flip it, then you can place it in the row the same way, but it might not be to the best of your ability since you have no choice to flip it after that point. And most of the tiles do simple things. Like the lookout, if it's the topmost tile, it's going to score 4 coins at the end of the game. Cool. The parrot lets you put it down. It's -1 coin at the end of the game if it's face up, but it lets you take another turn right away. The monkey gives you a coin, but it takes one adjacent tile and flips it to the other side and then activates that tile. The gunner, crazy valuable, gives you 5 coins. That's a lot. But if you have 3 or more gunners face up on your board at the end of the game, you lose. You can't win. So silly stuff like this. It's a Paolo Mori game. It works really well. I enjoy it a lot. And one of these days I will show you. I don't know if it'll be this week, but I mean probably really soon. It's an incredibly fast, very simple game. I like it a lot. That's Captain Flip. Alright, but yeah, like I said, that was Captain Flip, Paolo Mori. I really like his designs, smart stuff. And Masmo said, Paolo Mori, I'm sold.
I love Paolo Mori stuff.
Yeah, almost everything. He's another one like Rudiger Dorn or Stefan Dora. Like, the stuff that they make is just kind of like a cool little puzzle and like clever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I like it.
Another one like Emerson Matsuchi.
Yeah.
Yeah, really quick.
Not quite as elegant as those. But
yeah, but it's like quick, fun kind of aspect stuff.
Fun little filler designer.
All right, so the next game I'm going to talk about is one that we really enjoyed. In fact, I'm actually going to talk about the other one made by the same company because I want to talk about the one we liked more last. Okay. So the one I am going to talk about was a little quick card game that I wanted to get a play of because I had it sitting on a while. Because we loved every single game that came before it. And that is Mind Up, and we like Gnar.
Okay.
These are small Pandasaurus card games.
Yep.
The one I want to talk about first is Corazones.
Yep.
And the thing is, like, I don't want to talk bad about it, because I did enjoy this game.
Yeah.
But after following Gnar and Mind Up, and one I'm going to be talking about, it's the outlier, because there's 4 card games that they've recently came out within the last year. This is the weakest of the 4, and I'll talk about the other one next. But it is still a fun card game, and it's quite simple. You draw 3 cards in your hand, you play 1 to yourself, you play 1 to another player, and you play 1 to the queen's board. Where you play it onto the queen's table depends on how it's going to score. If you play it above the queen's table, you're trying to give it favor. If you play it below the queen's table, you're trying to put them in disrepute. And when it goes into the final scoring aspect, depending on which side is higher is where it's going to either score you positive points or negative points. So if light blue is 3 cards to the top and 2 cards to the bottom, it's going to score positive points for every player. If the yellow family is more so at the bottom, so say 4 to 1, then every yellow family member you're going to have is going to give you negative points. Now, each card, or some of these families have special abilities. You have assassins that, where they're played, they kill someone in that group. Or, if they have a shield, they're protected from assassinations. Mm-hmm. My personal favorite is the spy, because you could feed it to another person and it's face down and they can never lift it. Now, you can assassinate it, but it even tells you to discard that assassinated card face down. This way, nobody knows what it is. Mm-hmm. And when you play a spy to the queen's table, whether it's above or below, you put it face down in the center of the table, whether it's above or below. And that's going to be added to the grouping later on, and you all have your own little personal goals based on the table, plus based on what your personal grouping is. I liked it. I think it was a good game. It's a nice little quick game. Fantastic art. I love the little bit of foiling on it. I love the kind of Disney cartoonish vibe it's going to give you. And I liked a little bit of the cutthroat nature, but not like really bad about it. Now I know Damn It Dom despised this game. He wasn't a fan of it. Gamehead Geek was indifferent towards it. You and me liked it more than the other two. Sure. And you even said like, I think I liked it more than you guys. I'm like, no, I enjoyed it. I just I see what it's trying to do, and I like what it's doing.
And I have other games that are similar, that give a similar idea but do it better.
Yeah, I think but what I like about it is because it's this little quick game. Mm-hmm. If you want to play like a quick game that has a little bit of cutthroat this way for those people that just need to get out their aggression, it's perfect. Yeah. I liked it a lot. Cortisones, great art. It's a fun game overall. It's my least favorite of the 4 Pandasauruses. Mm-hmm. I'll talk about another one here in a little bit, but it's still fun.
Yeah, cool. The next one I want to talk about is an old party game that I busted out recently, just because I had a pretty big group on my home game night this last week, and we're like, all right, what game plays well with 7? And this was recommended from a friend of mine, and I was like, okay, we haven't played this in a while, and I brought it out. And recently I played a game called Champions, and it's similar in vein. It just came out recently, where you're arguing the brackets, right?
This is the other one you thought it was going to be like?
This is the old one. This is Cranium Party Playoff.
Yeah.
And
I don't like this game.
I know you don't, but yet when we played it, it just sung, because the whole picking the brackets, sure, yeah, fine, whatever. It's less of a game. But when we're getting into the arguments, I mean, like, just some of the things that ensued with it. Like, I mean, one of the things, like, what would you rather do? What would you rather do in high heels? Would it be sleepwalking or booty shaking or whatever? Right? Like, just something silly. And my son was playing with us, and he like, one of the things that he said, it's like talking about memorable moments. He was like, yeah, if you're doing too much of that booty shaking, you must be part of the TikTok generation. This kid's 15, right? Or he's 14. And just for him to say stuff like this,
he's literally not that far from 15. It's when this airs, it's like, what, 2 weeks?
Yeah, something like that. And it's just like, what a ridiculous comment for him. And, you know, like, there was some people where they're talking like, where would you rather, or where would you be most likely to find true love? A Starbucks or Gilligan's Island? Like, it comes up with the most ridiculous conversations. And, like, since the very first card, the very first 2 ones that came in, me and my friend Jim were sitting next to each other, and we flip it up, and these new people to the table, they would start talking, they start having this ridiculous conversation, and I lean over at him, I'm like, this is the reason why we play this game all the time, because we're already 2 minutes into the game, and it's already, like, we're talking about, like, some creepy guy slipping, like, a love letter to our friend, like, at a Starbucks. It's like, no, you need to leave me alone. I have my laptop here for a reason, kind of thing. It's like where did any of this come from 2 minutes into that game? And I mean, it's a little bit longer because it's a lot of brackets, but gosh, man, it's so fun. And it always sings every time I've played it, and you can technically play, like, any number of players, like 3 to, like, 40, whatever, it doesn't matter. It'll take longer a little bit with that, but it won't be that much longer.
Yeah, I'm fine. Honestly, I prefer playing this one over something like Super Fight or...
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
It is fine. I already get enough arguments with you on a monthly basis. Yeah. I'm good. I don't need to play a board game about arguing.
And that's the thing, like, even though it's an argument-style game, right? You can sit back and coast most of it, right? You're only arguing for 4 horses out of 32.
Yeah.
Like, so it's fine. Like, if you lose a horse, like, 1 out of 32, that's fine.
Yeah, no, I get it. Like, I don't mind playing it. Like, if you busted it out and said, hey, we got a big group, let's play this game. Yeah, sure, I'll play it. It's not a problem. Yeah. It's better than some of the, like, we've talked about it before, like Codenames. I don't want to play that with 7 players. I'll play Party Playoffs with 7 players.
Yeah, see, I'm okay with that with 7 players. But, yeah, Party Playoff, I mean, like, if I had a group of, like, 20 people, that would be, like, the only game I would ever offer.
No, if I had 20 people, I would do Wits and Wagers.
No, that's fair. That's a good one.
I like Wits and Wagers.
That should be my next big game group. That would be pretty good.
So, all right. Gonna talk about my last game. I've already made reference for it. You all know it's a Pandasaurus game. Mm-hmm. You wanted to play it because both of us have had it on our pile of shame or shelf of shame. Both of us really were intrigued when this was shown to us. I'm like, I knew about it beforehand because I saw reviews about it and stuff like that. And then we saw that Pandasaurus was bringing it over to the U.S. And when I can't remember her name. The lovely lady from Pandasaurus who showed us all the games that are coming out. I think Medina, I think is her last name.
Yeah.
But when she was showing this, both you and me were like, "Go on," and then, "Oh yeah," but when you're putting it in this tableau, you're scoring it this way. Wait, what? Huh? Excuse me? And I really did I love the uniqueness of this game.
Yeah.
Because it's basically a card draft.
Yep.
But the way it scores is what really makes it shine, and this is far away.
Right. And it shouldn't work as well as it does.
Yeah, exactly. Mind you, we only play 2 players. I do want to play it with more, a bigger group, to the full player count, because I think it's still going to do really well, because all it does is add a card to the tableau of the draft. Because whoever scores or who plays the lowest card takes the first card out of the tableau. You always have 3 cards in your hand, and you're just trying to figure out how to put it in.
Yep.
You're only playing 8 cards in your row. You're trying to go from your home, make a trip, and make your way back as you're scoring. So you're putting your cards out in the tableau to get your better cards, possibly give you, I forget what they're called. They're like little maps or the little smaller cards, which can help you. Sanctuaries.
Yes.
Which can help you. And so you're trying to be like, this would be really good because it scores a lot of points. But I really need this to be here because I need to fire off that card that I know that's coming up when it goes into the scoring, because this is going to make sure that one triggers.
Yeah.
And so you have that nice little push and pull. The art is fine. It's nothing like...
I quite like the art.
Actually.
It's like this kind of over-the-top cartoony... It reminds me of like Llama Land a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it's...
I prefer Courtesan's art style. Just because I don't know why. I just kind of like that Disney aspect of it. This one was a little too... Who is that weird abstracted artist that it's kind of like Native meets the Salvador Dali?
Yeah. It's surrealist.
It's surrealist.
Why is there a levitating fish in my chair?
So it's fine. I didn't mind the art, and it would not make my best art list, but it wouldn't make my worst art list either.
It's really more cubist.
And the reason why I liked it so much, it's very intuitive too. It's just like, this needs this to fire off. Okay, this one has it. Here, this is the one that tells you the resources here. This one tells you if you want to score it, you need these resources, and this is how it goes. I liked it. You have your little set collection, so you need like 4 different sets. You were all about like busting out the knight because it was going to help you fire cards. So, fantastic game. I also like the fact that if you played a card higher than your previous played card in the tableau, you get a sanctuary for every map you have on your board. You get more cards, but you only get to choose one of those cards.
You just got more options.
But then you're like, but I could give me a sanctuary, but I need to play this lower card because I needed to fire cards that are coming up because, again, you're scoring backwards, so you already know what's coming up that is in that tableau, how you're going to get the point. When we finished up, it was a 1-point difference. You beat me by 1 point because of your night cards firing properly. Yep. So, for me, far and away, is probably my new favorite of the Pandasaurus. But we also played Gnar that night, and I really enjoyed that game of it, too. Right. So it's like, this is, when I talk about like Mind Up and this one is like 1A, 1B, 1C. It's like, what am I in the mood to play?
Right, exactly. No, that was really... I was very impressed with it. I'm glad it's off my shelf of shame now. Actually, I have to physically move it now. I haven't done that yet. The last game I wanted to talk about, this last game night that we're at the comic shop. So I help run the game nights at our local comic shop, and I picked the games to demo. And I was teaching people Yahtzee. And, and I was like, let's just teach people, like, different classic-style dice games. But mainly, we had a lot of games from the op. And so I was like, let's teach them Yahtzee. Let's show them how it's done. And we were playing throughout the night. And it was a good fun, but then there was a lull where everyone was calming down a little bit, hanging out. And I was like, okay, what are we going to do now? And there was like one more regular. And we had 3 different Yahtzee cups. And he asked me, he was like, do you know how to play Liar's Dice? And I was like, yeah, sure do. I was like, we have enough. I was like, that's a good point. Because the op has really brilliant cups and stuff. So we had I played with the they played with the ramen version. I played with the Lilo and Stitch version in a coconut. Yeah. And then we had like an anime head or something off on the side. And so we played Liar's Dice with Yahtzee cups.
For those who don't know Liar's
fun.
Dice, it's also called Perudo. So
Perudo, yep.
Perudo's the one that won the spiel, right?
Yes, yep. And it's a game that was on Pirates of the Caribbean, and so we were just playing it, and we had other groups that just stopped and started watching. I know you hate this one.
I hate this
but
game.
We had other groups like stop and watch. They're like, "What is going on?" And one guy knew who it was, but the woman, she was like, "What is this?" And then as soon as like, 3 threes, and then the other person looked at me and was like, "I have 1 die." I'm like, "Yeah, I know. I have 3 of them. Are you not bid?" He was like, "No." He was like, "But if I call you on it, it's gonna." I was like, just accept. Fall on the sword, bro. Fall on the sword. They couldn't outbid me because they already said it was a single 4. Yeah, so it was beautiful. Nat 3 threes. It was so good. Like it was such a fun game. I had a lot of fun with it. That's Perudo, Liar's Dice, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, my thing is like, I don't like bluffing games.
Yeah, I know.
The same reason why I don't play poker. I rather play blackjack.
Yep.
I played poker all the way through high school and college. I'm familiar with it. I know how to play it. It wasn't a fun game for me. And Liar's Dice is basically that same aspect, is where you're playing the other players. I'd rather just play the system.
Yep.
And it's just my style of gaming. So it is a fantastic game. I will admit it. It is a good game, and it works like it should.
Yep.
I just don't personally like it.
Yep. That's fine. That's fine. It was still fun.
I like the fact that you played it with Yahtzee.
With Yahtzee cards, yeah. Well, because the thing is, it only came with 5 dice each, which is enough for Liar's Dice for each cup, because we had multiple cups. But we weren't going to cross-mogenate the cups to play Farkle. You know?
No.
As much as Farkle is my favorite of the classic dice games. Like, I love Farkle.
I'm not a fan of Farkle. I take that right. Farkle's okay. I don't like LCR.
Yeah, those are very different games.
I know.
LCR is just pure random.
I know, but it just I put them together for some reason.
That's really unfair for Farkle. Farkle has legitimate choice in it.
No, I get that.
It is more random than
Yahtzee is my favorite
of
the classic dice games.
Yeah, that's fair. But man, lumping together LCR and Farkle, that's...
I just get them confused in my head. It's either that or Tinsy, and I've never played a game of Tinsy. I just buy the tubes for the dice.
Tinsy is even worse than the others.
Like I said, the only reason I've owned Tinsy is because I bought it for the dice to make get myself some dice sets for the made copy of Tumbling Dice that Gamehead Geek gifted me.
Well, if you have like red solo cups and a copy of Tinsy, you can play 8-player Liar's Dice.
I'm good. I'd rather play Liar's Dice than LCR, so I'll give you that.
Right.
All right, let's get into this.
Yeah, let's get into our episode. So today, we have a ridiculous episode of the best and worst art in our games. Now, again, caveat, these are games that are in our collection. And secondly, this is in jest. This is fun. Yes, we will be ripping some of this art. A new one.
One of them is not in jest. This thing is hideous.
Right. And so, but again, there's a reason these games are still in our collection, because we do like the games. So, despite it having bad art, the game is still pretty great. So, with that being said, actually, yeah, there's a common theme amongst all of my bad art games.
And they're old?
They are. I think the newest one is like early 2000s.
I purposely, and they're not ugly games, but it's more of a graphic design choice, but I don't have a single Alea game on my list because it's more graphic design issues that I have with the game than the actual art being bad.
I also don't have any Alea games, and that's because these are worse.
I've seen your collection. I would not be surprised.
Yeah, I think you'll be surprised at how bad some of these are.
I know one that should be on your list. I don't know if you put it on your list, but it is a Spiel des Jahres winner, and it is hideous.
Well, write it down, and then we'll discuss after we're done. So let's start with our first one. I'll be starting us off. So, and we're going to say our number 4 picks for both the bad, and then we'll go into our good art. So we'll do that afterwards.
Do your bad first, I'll do my bad, then you'll do your good, and I'll do my good, and then we'll flip the coin.
So this game is awesome. This game I've had in my collection for a long time, and a lot of people, like even nowadays, still cite this game as an inspiration. And they have had reprints that have better components, but the version I have is from 1960s, and I think 1962 is when it came out, and it's one of my favorite designers. This is Sid Saxon, and this is Acquire.
Oh, yes.
And this is because the board itself is literally just a plain plastic grid. It's a weird off color. The tiles are just like plastic, like they're like the upwards tiles, except they don't stack, which is already pretty bad. Some of the letters are misprinted because again, this was 1960s. This was the company 3M from Minnesota, who's now known as they make Scotch tape. That's kind of like their big thing in office supplies and stuff. And this and Avalon Hill started making some bookshelf games, but they were really kind of the innovators of it. And their games are fantastic, and Sid Saxon is a great designer. It's just like every part of that old version of Acquire was just awful to look at, and it was really unpleasant. Even the paper money was unpleasant. Like just none of the tiles, like it didn't even have all that much art. But then on top of that, the cover was bad too. I mean, like even as far as like those games go, there was a few of those games that were questionable, but some of them had some decent art on the cover or even tolerable. That everything about it was bad. But then now that I think Renegade has reprinted it.
Oh, it looks good in Renegade.
Like that, all you had to do was update the cover and make like the board just look slightly less bad. I still feel like there's room for improvement, but overall, like the stocks look cool, all the components look cool. So overall, Acquire from 1962.
See, my issue, and luckily I don't own games that are like that far back. I owned one game from the 60s, and I didn't put it on this list for the simple fact that it has very little art, and it's all basically text-based. It's Solo Ball, the game that you gave me. It's about the solo baseball game, the dice rolling, which is a fine game.
Right.
I just can't hold that classic art style because, honestly, I can't think of anything that was really pretty from the 1960s. The music was good. The art was questionable.
Well, I mean, Bazaar was decent. Like, that version is pretty bad. The version you own is pretty bad. That's a very questionable 1980s art.
Yeah.
But the 60s version, the cover is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's fine.
And like the cards were functional. There's no art on them, but the cards are functional. And the pieces were cool.
Luckily enough, Bazaar is not on my list. Well, first off, I find these games to be a lot uglier for different reasons. But also, again, I don't behold something from like the 1980s. And this is just for me personally. Because I don't know why. They didn't really care all that much because the box was going to get beat up.
Sure.
And, a lot of games from the 60s, 70s, and 80s are not pristine.
I don't know. The Game of Life was kind of fun.
It was fine. It wasn't like the original box cover was okay. It wasn't anything great.
Yeah.
So, anyways, my worst is a newer game. And the reason why it's in the worst art, for one simple reason, it reminds me of an Alea game, even though it's relatively new and it's a fantastic game. And we've had this discussion in our game groups about this game, and it's Red Cathedral. Because it makes me look like I have a game from the early aughts or earlier than that. Like, it's almost like something El Grande came up, and I'm like, Devere, you make pretty games. What is going on with it? This art reminds me of the original St. Petersburg. Just slightly better. And it could be better. That cover is boring. The art design and the cards is boring. It makes me think I am playing a game older than it actually is. And the game itself is fantastic. I don't like the box size either, but that's a whole different aspect of the game. But it makes me feel like it's older. It makes me feel like I'm playing a classic Alea game when it shouldn't. Not the saying Alea games are bad. They're great games, like especially a lot of the Stefan Feld ones. Mm-hmm. But this is the modern day. It should have better art on it. When it makes me think I'm playing St. Petersburg rather than Red Cathedral, I have an issue.
Yeah. All right, and my number 4th good one is a game that you actually have in your collection. This is one of the first ones that, like, I saw it in your collection. I was like, okay, that's probably one of them. And then as I was flipping through my list, the name popped up again. I'm like, okay. The fact that I checked it again I love the art on this game. This is Parks from Keymaster Games.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's on my short list.
I'm a huge fan of the national parks and the stylized version that they did, so much that they have like posters and all sorts of stuff from the art on this. They even had like a Barnes & Noble exclusive cover. Like just everything about it is absolutely stunning. It works with the components. The art pieces are beautiful, and I mean you can tell they just took a lot of care into this. Like I really, really do adore the art on this game. Yeah, I mean, I don't have much more to say about it. I just love the way art looks.
It was on my short list too. But a different nature game actually kicked it out of my list. One we've talked about a lot. Well, me personally, because I really do enjoy this game. To the point, it created its own art book based on this. And so, you're correct. It is Wingspan. Well, for one thing, there's 3 designers that I always gravitate to. One didn't even make this list. But when it comes to like the art design, Beth Sobel, Andrew Bosley, Vincent Dutrait. Those, if you say these are the artists, these are the ones I'm gonna. I'll let you figure out which one didn't make my list. But Wingspan's art created its own art book because everybody fell in love with the Beth Sobel art, and the other 2 artists I just can't think of their name off the top of my head. And the only reason I know Beth Sobel is because she's done a lot more stuff.
Yeah.
But her art is fantastic. Wingspan's art is fantastic. It does help that I am into birds and I love the little bit of bird facts on it. But the art design on, especially in one of the newer expansions, the Australian or Oceania expansion, where they have like really more design, more wetlands, more greenery and stuff like that compared to trees, grasslands, water. There's a little bit more design to the boards. I think those are fantastic. The birds themselves are through the roof. I'm looking at one of them right now on my shelf, and I really do enjoy the art based on the birds themselves. I love the fan art pack where they paid or they used fan art to replace some of the bird cards. And what's really cool about it, some of them are CGI, some of them are like paper mache art styles. Some of them are like the board game pieces that you would see on the calendar behind my head. But yeah, no, other than that, this game, the art for sure. And I had to get a Stonemeyer in here somehow because they knock it out of the park with their art stuff.
Absolutely. Cool.
All right, moving to our number 3.
Our number 3s.
This one's going to be starting with me. You're going to hear more about this next week on our previously recorded episode that's going to air after this that we mentioned at the top of the thing. I dislike the art of this game, even though I love this game. In fact, this game, when we last did our top 100, was in like my top 10. I love this game. This is Terraforming Mars. The overall art is just bland. The graphic design to this game is bland. The art from the board is bland. The player pieces are bland. The only cool thing about it is not even art. It is the tokens that come out of the game that made it look like metallic shine and stuff like that. Everything else about this game is boring. The cover, the art on the cards, the board itself, the pieces, the cardboard pieces that you put on the board, the ones that represent trees and ocean and cities, boring. Stronghold really did this game dirty with this art. I don't know if it was Stronghold or Firaxis Games, but this game is by far one of the ugliest games in my top 100, let alone in my collection.
Yep. Sounds about right. Alright, the next ugliest game that I want to talk about is a game from 1987. So again, and it's based off an IP, and actually the cover of it is fine. The cover is okay. And the game, it's rated pretty poorly online because it's super random and chaotic. But I keep it in my collection because I remember playing this around Halloween time and we enjoyed our play of it. It's one of those games where you just sit back and let silly
Let the game scream at you?
Let silly happen.
Let the game scream at you?
No, that's not the one.
Oh, okay.
No, because that art is not too bad. This is the Nightmare on Elm Street board game. And now look at that cover. It is a red-green hourglass maze. I'm going to try and do my best to put up there. Yeah, it's
going to wash out. Go look at it on Board Game Geek.
Yeah, check it out on Board Game Geek. It's a it's a maze that's red and green, and there's like lines that go up from certain doors to certain doors because while you cannot travel outside of that hourglass thing as you're trying to get to the other side of your dreams, Freddy can, and that's kind of like his automatic, like he Pac-Mans to the other side, and that's to show which columns he stays in. And it's just this awful web mess of a board. But it's super silly at the same time as you're trying to traverse this maze in your dream, trying to get past Freddy, and you're kind of okay if it hits somebody else because it hurts them and it's not cooperative, so it doesn't matter. You're just trying to be the first to get out of your dream and to wake up. It's fun. I mean, it's good silliness. It's not good. I would be remiss if I told you it was a good game. It's not.
It's a fun game.
It's a fun game, though, and it's silly, and we had a blast when we played it. It's a roll and move is really what it is. But knowing where Freddy is moving and what he's probably going to do and how he's going to capture certain people, it's just silly. But man, that board, oh god, it was really rough.
All right, let's go away from ugly right now and go to my third favorite beautiful game that I own. And this one is just... It's kind of a cheaty pick because you could pick any game that this designer artist created and it's going to look good. I know you're not a big fan of his art style, but damn it, Dom's a huge fan. I'm a huge fan.
Wait, are you doing the good?
I'm doing the good, yeah.
Oh, I started off on the bad one.
We started on the bad. I started at 3 bad, now we're going 3 good.
Right, you did start on a bad one already. Terraforming Mars, I forgot. It already blocked out of my memory.
Because it's so bad, yeah.
It's pretty bad.
Alright, so this one I specifically picked Above and Below from Red Raven Games. Ryan Lockett is the artist. Reason why I picked this one is the one I play the most. I have Near and Far on my pile of shame over here. I've played Megaland. Empires of the Void. What are the other ones over there? But yeah, Above and Below is the one I always go back to more. I don't know why. It's not the best game out of the group from what I hear. Mm-hmm. But Sleeping God is another one that you can... The art, just on the cover alone from Sleeping Gods, pulled me in. But I just love the art style of Above and Below. I like the fact that it's a little bit of a worker placement. You have the little storybook elements. I've always been a fan of Ryan Lockett's art. I know you're not all that great with his art, or his game style for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, they're fine.
Yeah, but...
I don't dislike them.
Yeah.
I just haven't played anything that, like...
Really caught...
Yeah, nothing's caught me yet.
Yeah. But yeah, no, Red Raven Games in general is really good. I picked Above and Below because it's the one I keep gravitating towards, especially now that they just talked about a pseudo-sequel to Above and Below called Haunted Glades or something like that, where it's going to be dealing with marshlands and your house is going to be haunted, which is bad for you. I like that little twist on it. But his art style has just always sung to me. Every game that I've have of his, I've really enjoyed the art. My wife really enjoys the art. In fact, my specific copy of Above and Below is autographed by Ryan Lockett. The storybook is autographed by him, so... Cool. Above and Below is my third best art style.
Alright, and this is one of the games that, like, when I bought it based on the cover. Like, that's how pretty I thought this game was at first. I was like, okay, it might be decent. I quickly looked at the reviews. I was like, oh, they're good reviews. Let's give it a try. And this is a game that not only did I like so much, not because it's just the art, but because of the mechanisms. And after I showed it to you, you hunted a copy for the longest time. This is Inuit the Snowfolk.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god. Oh my god, that is stunningly
This
beautiful.
was on my short list. I really did like it. I was like, this might be on your list. So
I mean, that cover, I would frame that and put it on a wall.
Oh, yeah,
absolutely. Like, that's a gorgeous image. And all of the different gods, like, I like how they did, like, a reverse negative. Like, they switched the lights and the darks on the image. They made it look like the constellations. I like how just the animals come out. It looks, and they're in their, like, nature settings. I love how all of the tribesfolk look like that. It's just, and the overall tone of the whole game, how it just looks like that. It's just gorgeous. And every new card that you look at, you just sit there and you just look at the cards for a bit because of just how neat it looks. And that cover is just, oh my gosh, that cover. I cannot tell you how much I like that cover as much. So, Inuit the Snowfolk, I adore that game.
Nice. So moving on to our number 2.
That's right.
And starting with me again, this is going to be my second worst game that I own. And unfortunately, This is one of the newest games in my collection and newest games that came out. Now, it looks much better than its predecessor. I'll give it that. But even my wife was like, it's okay. The game is fine. I really do enjoy the game. I think it's a really fun game. It looks better than its original version, which came from Astari, who were notoriously bad. This is City of the Living by Reiner Knizia from Trick or Treat Studios. It's just, it looks like any generic zombie game, in all honesty. Dead of Winter is much better looking than City of Living. City of Living was last year. Dead of Winter is about 6 years old or so, or if not older.
Oh, way older.
I think like 10 years.
10 years.
Yeah, something like that. We could even do a board game brainstorm more close to it of Dead of Winter, which we should, hint, maybe Halloween. But it just, I wish the art was better. Honestly, it's not very important, the art style aspect of it, because you're just laying tiles down and you're moving up track. Now, the pieces and components of this game are fantastic, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the art. And as I said with Terraforming Mars in the last pick to this one, it's just bland. It's a lot of grays. It's easy to read, so it doesn't really mess with my color blindness. But it's just, it's bland. There's nothing interesting in it. The cover gives you more gravitas than the rest of the game itself. The board is boring. The cards or the tiles are meh. The tracks are okay. The only reason the tracks are fine is because the pieces that go on the tracks are amazing. But overall, I wish, especially coming from Trick or Treat Studios, I wished for a little bit more. And so I consider this my second ugliest game because I expected more, because I've seen all their other stuff.
Yeah.
And now, like I said, better looking than Prosperity, so...
Yep. My second ugliest game. So I want to preface this first off that the board is not as bad, and the tiles that are in it aren't too bad either. But the cover is notorious for being like one of the worst covers of all time.
Oh, I know what this is then.
And this is some Grumpy King right on the front.
Once you said the cover, I'm like, oh, I know what it is.
Yeah, the cover is just hilariously just Grumpy King right in the front there. If you've already guessed it, you know what I'm talking about. You have that image of him in your mind. This is Kalis. Yeah.
Well, they did a great job getting Andrew Bosley for the remake.
Right. I mean, like, but the old one though, like that was synonymous. Like they would have, that was the first meme in board games.
It really
have
was.
that character pop up in different things.
Yeah.
And I love the game. I really do adore it.
It's a fun game.
But that cover, it's like, oh man,
bad.
that was comically bad. And I'm gonna cut ahead of you for our good covers.
Okay.
Because, and this will make a lot of sense, you referenced it with Andrew Bosley art. I'm a big fan of his style. I think it's very beautiful. So I put Kalis 1303 as my pretty one.
I figured that's what you were going to do.
Yeah, I mean, and not just because of the art. Let me tell you what my favorite part about it was. I was in architectural drafting for a couple of years in high school, and I still very much love drafting. I love architecture. I love that stuff. And for some reason, I don't know why, blue graph paper, like the grid paper,
yeah,
I think is gorgeous. Like, there's something about it that in my mind, I'm just like, man, that just looks so cool. So like whenever in Mythbusters, whenever they were doing the show and they bring out the blue paper and they would draw like the design stuff, I love that. There's another game called Blueprints that uses that style paper, and it's a roll and write. I love that. And Andrew Bosley incorporated that into the cover of 1303 and made it look like it was an architectural drafting. Oh my gosh. Like, that sung to me when I saw it. I was like, oh, it's so good. Now, the board isn't much better than the original, but it is better, don't get me wrong. But it's
much more colorblind friendly.
It's much more colorblind friendly. But the cover change between that to this was light and day. So I had to pick that one as probably one of my prettiest games.
It really needed that reprint just for that art.
Yes.
All right, so my prettiest game, since you cut me off here, is a game...
Second prettiest, yeah.
Yeah, well, the second prettiest, yeah. My pretty game on this set, is not part of the trio that I referenced. And in fact, bumped one of the trios off because I just love this art. I'm not a big fan of the game itself. I think the game is fine. It's grown on me a little bit more because of this version that I specifically am talking about. And that is Disney Dixit.
Oh, yeah. I figured this would be on your list.
Yeah. So, don't get me wrong. Dixit is a gorgeous game. Mysterium, gorgeous game. The Disney art in this game is fantastic. And the reason why I like it so much, too, is this game really needs the art to carry it. Dixit needs the art to carry it for it to be as good as it is. And the Dixit cards themselves were fantastic. Mm-hmm. Then you put the Disney IP on it, which, makes my wife happy because she's a Disney fiend. Our friends that we game with, Maria and Angel, they're both Disney fiends. In fact, Maria, who owns her own therapy business, does a training for therapists at Disneyland. That's how big of a Disney geek they are. So,
nerds!
The fact that I can get this game played, and they're already fans of Dixit, they like the simplicity of it, and this has grown on me because, one, I played it a little bit more with them, and two, the Disney art is fantastic on this one. You know the references, you know what movie they're coming from, or sometimes you're looking at it like, which movie did this? Oh, okay, I get this reference, but the art is fantastic on this one. So I knew I had to put this on my list. So Disney Dixit.
Cool. All right. And our best and worst art in a board game.
Starting with me, this one's simple. I hate doing it. And I just recently played this game, and I like the game a lot. To the point, I want to go buy a reprint version of this game and give you my copy of it because it is hideous. And this is Circus Flocati. From Rainer Knizia again.
I mean, I know we say art is subjective, but that is objectively great art. In my mind.
Well, I have a couple issues with it, and this is the one that I was telling you about. The graphic design is going to come into it. It took you, like, if you're holding it in your hand, the orange and the red are too close in color.
Sure.
And even though they had different font styles on the numbers,
some of them were
the orange and the red were too close to the colors. Mm-hmm. That you had to fan the cards out more for you could see if it's the acrobat or the tamer. Mm-hmm. Come on, guys. Come on. Grail Games, you really dropped the ball on this one. If you're going to do that, at least make the fonts different than the colors that are same. Mm-hmm. And that's just the graphic design of it. But the superimposed flea heads on the acrobatic artists, like the acrobats or the tamers and stuff like that, it is atrocious. It is ugly. The only thing I like about this game when it comes to that art is the box, because it gives you that circus feel. I am going to go out and get myself the 25th century version of it. It's a much more simplistic art style. It's little caricature fleas in a flea circus. It's easier to read, too, because we were looking at it at the Gamma Expo. I bought Circus Flocati because we were at a half-price books in Louisville. I got it for $2.50. I'm like, I heard good things about this. Mm-hmm. I love little quick card games. I love the little push your luck aspect of it. It is a great game. Hideous. Oh my God. Hideous. Go ahead.
My worst is a game which, in all fairness, I have it in my collection, but I haven't played it yet. But I have it for a reason, because it won an award that I collect all of them. And this is a Spiel des Jahres winner.
No, oh, good. This was the one I had on my list.
I don't think it was, because I have not played this one.
No, it is the one I picked, because we talked about it. Is it the one that is completely in German?
No.
Not the truck driving one?
Nope.
Oh, that one's worse.
Auf Achse? No.
Yeah, that one's worse.
No, this one's worse than that. This is Railway Rivals. And this game, if you haven't seen it...
I've seen it.
No, yeah. You're not remembering the cover.
Oh, no, I'm remembering the cover now.
The cover is, like, really low quality.
Dude, I helped you put your shelves together. Right. I remember it.
Yeah.
It's 1A, 1B with what I just said in this game.
No, but what sets it apart? So, the one you said, yes, it's pretty bad, but Railway Rivals. The reason why this just is incredibly worse is it's a crayon rail game, which means that the board itself is made up of just a grid of lines. This massive grid of lines, which is ugly, that you're drawing a crayon onto, topped with just like the lowest quality image on the cover. Like the lettering blends into the background. Seriously, go look on Board Game Geek for Railway Rivals. And it's fascinating how ugly this game is. Now, granted, it has a lot of love, and it's really popular.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people really like it, and I do want to try it one of these days. But yeah, I mean, that cover, just like, if I bring it out, people just get uncomfortable with how ugly that is.
Honestly, I mean, it is ugly. I really don't like that Alf one, the truck one.
Yeah, but the board is decent.
I'm only judging by the cover. I haven't seen anything else.
No, that's what sets it apart. Is the board is just a generic map. Okay, fine. Like, this is literally just a massive grid of lines. It looks like graphing paper in not a good way. Not blueprint paper. It's like badly drawn graphing paper.
No, I get it.
Yeah.
All right. So for my number one, best art. So I've already said best Sobel. Mm-hmm. That leaves only Andrew Bosley and Vincent Dutray out of the three artists I said.
Yep.
Which one got knocked out?
Dutray?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just
I'm
because...
surprised Aqua was not on this list.
It was on my short list. I really did like Aqua. It's just that there wasn't enough art for my taste. Like, yeah, you have the cover is amazing.
Yeah.
You have the really cool animals based on like the crab and the big boxes and stuff like that, or the big animals. But it's mainly just the coral, which is fine, but it doesn't really do anything for me. Yeah, okay. So
sorry, I just gave him a headache by showing him the board of
But the one that really draws me, and I think he's becoming more and more of my favorite board game artist, is Andrew Bosley. Another one, real quick, Vincent Dutray that got on my short list was Tenpenny Park.
Oh,
I love the art. I love the art on that.
Really good art.
But the one I picked is right above your head in the big box. The art on the cover of the game is what drew me in. Then you see that big, massive tree in the middle of the table. It's Everdale. That was the one I picked because of Andrew Bosley. That is the game that put Andrew Bosley on my map. Mm-hmm. I really do love his art style. He was on that one. He's done Pendulum. The only reason I got Pendulum, really, well, other than the fact that it's a Stonemaier game, is they're like, oh, we did this with Andrew Bosley as well. And then they redid it with him on Tapestry as well. Yep. So he's really hitting it for me, but Everdale was the one that really drew me in. I love how well he drew the animals, how they still feel like that the animals they are, but they still feel human-like. I love the art style on those cards. The cover is amazing. Yeah, it's fantastic. Andrew Bosley really knocks it out of the park every time I see something of him. So it's like 1A, 1B when it comes to him, Dutray, and 1C with Best Sobel. I see these three artists, I'm going to look at the game because I know it's going to be pretty.
Cool. And my top one is none of those artists, actually, surprisingly enough. I think one of them might have had a hand in it. And this is one of those games where the art was paramount in this. And the thing is, with each addition to it, they went with a different artist to try and bring out the theme. And this is one of the most thematic games that I own as well. Mm-hmm. And that's because each one of the add-on chapters that you play, they took it to a different style, a different storyline, and a different theme that the art sung in every single one of them. And and the art is one of the most important parts of the game.
I'm not surprised it's on your list.
Yeah, it
is a pretty game.
That's because every single time you go to a new location, there is a panorama of that image right off the bottom that not only is functional because it describes the scene, it sets the tone. This is Time Stories from Space Cowboys. Oh my gosh, like that. And not only just that, like I love the art. All of the graphic design that they use, like it's specific enough, but at the same time it's not like overly obvious. It doesn't look like they were forcing lore into everything. It's just like, we're making a console of a board, But then that cover with just a little bit of the time capsule thing off on the side, the caissons, with an all white for the rest of it, and then gray letters, Time Store. Oh gosh, like that is so cool. All of the artists that they got for all of the versions, I don't think there's a version I didn't like.
Art-wise.
Art-wise. No, I mean functional, like, even the worst one of those functionality-wise was still better than a lot of games I played.
Well, you know? Man, I've seen the games you play, so... Federicus.
So, yeah, the art is just absolutely stunning and gorgeous on it, and...
No,
yeah, I mean,
it's stunning art. I'll agree with you. It is fantastic art. I don't even know who the designers were on the art designers.
I don't know. I think Vincent Dutrait did do some of the expansions.
Mind you, I've only went through the third expansion, so...
I want to say... I think he actually did the third one. I think he did the dragon one.
That one was nice.
Yeah, but, I mean, there was not a single one of them that didn't functionally work. Like, it was solid through and through, and that art just... You really, really appreciated it as you went through. But... That's mine, Time Stories.
So, on my quick short list, there's one game I want to talk about because it has two of my favorite artists on it. Oh. But I don't own it yet because I'm waiting on it. It's on pre-order. Unconscious Minds. Give me my game. I want to play it. It looks pretty.
I had a bunch that were on my short list, like Trekking Through History was one of the art ones.
Trekking Through History.
I haven't seen the new art. I like all of the villainous ones.
Yeah, I like the villainous.
Wonders Architects was on my short list.
One of my short list worst art that just kind of got bumped off was because I didn't want to punish it for what it was trying to do, and that was Freedom the Underground Railroad. Because they're using actual like screen caps, historical context, and stuff like that. Now, if I was knocking like the graphic design of it, the bland board and stuff like that, and not pieces of components, it would be knocked off. But the art itself is fine because of what it's trying to convey. Right.
I was thinking about doing Dog Park for the same reason you put like Wingspan.
Yeah.
But I don't own Dog Park anymore, so.
Oh, you sold yours.
Yeah.
I Dog Park was on my short list, especially since I got the expansion now. Trying to think of The Loop. I really like the art in The Loop. I think it's fantastic. I like that little kind of abstract-y kind of like not cubism, like far away, but it's weird how the art in there is. But, another one on my short list of bad art styles is Mariposas. The cover's fine, but the board's very bland. You have, like, little tokens and stuff like that. The game's fine. I like the game, but the art...
questionable at best. Yeah. Cool. Well, so we hope you enjoyed this episode today. Let us know in the comments below if you're watching this at a later on, or any comments, any way you can describe it. Post, interact with us anyway. If you want to contact us directly, though, you can email us at everydayboardgames2020@gmail.com, whether that's to enter in future contests, tell us what you think about this episode, or just to say hello, email us there. Also, we have an Instagram, instagram.com/everydayboardgames.
Also, all video uploads and reviews are found under YouTube under youtube.com/@everydayboardgames. And if you like what we do, there are 3 things that you can do to help us grow on the platform. Subscribe if you're not. Like the video, and comment down below and tell us your thoughts on the subject.
And if you want to join us, like any of our friends, on these live episodes and join in on the conversation, like our friend Masmo, So Very Wrong About Games, Illuminous, or anybody else who has joined us throughout this episode, we appreciate you. We filmed this live at twitch.tv/everydayboardgames.
As well as all audio versions can be found on most podcast platforms under Everyday Board Games. This includes Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, and Apple.
So I want to thank you so much for tuning in. As always, I've been your host, Daniel.
And I've been your host, Daniel.
And thank you for listening to Everyday Board Games.
And remember, every day is a good day for board gaming.